So first, it would be great if you all could just introduce yourselves really quickly with your name and whom you represent. Please, starting with Juan Pablo.
Good afternoon. First of all, congratulations to all of you. This is such an amazing event. I'm Juan Pablo from Sistema B. Sistema B is the partner organization of B-Lab in South America. And so I'm the executive director and one of the co-founders of Sistema B, and I'm also an entrepreneur myself. I am one of the co-founders of B Corp in Chile and Peru.
Thank you. James?
Hello, everybody. It's great to be here. My name is James Perry, and I am a co-founder of a B Corporation in Britain called Cook. And we certified a couple of years ago, and as a result of that, I got more deeply involved in this movement, and I'm helping to launch B Corporations in Britain in September.
Thank you.
Marcello Palazzi, I'm a co-founder with Lane, who was here at B-Lab Europe. I've been on this journey for a long time. I think 21 years ago, actually, I co-founded Social Venture Network Europe with Eckert Vincent and Ben Cohen, Anita Roddick, here in Amsterdam, so it's kind of anniversary. And I am about 2 years ago, I saw the B Corp was, in a way, the culmination of a journey of 25 years to actually concretize and bring this movement of entrepreneurs to the next stage. Thank you.
And Pablo, please.
So I'm Pablo Smolders, running the Dutch corporation, which is one of the B Corps as well, here in Holland. Leading actually the supporting country support for all kind of B Corps here in Holland. And apart from that, co-founder of probably at least 3 or 4 B Corps who are now in the founding class. And last but not least, helping out Marcello and Lane with the European step-up, which we have to take care of from now on, probably. Or?
Excellent. Thank you. So, Juan Pablo, I'm going to start with you. You were our first global partner to bring this movement to Latin America, and it's, frankly, your success that brought this across the globe. I'm curious, what potential did you see in this movement? Why were you interested?
So it immediately resonated for one reason. So in Latin America, you all know that social and environmental indicators are not, in some areas, are not so good. A lot of poverty, a lot of inequality. You have been how all social movements have started to organize, to ask for the rights, but also we started to see how the civil society started to be much more proactive in terms of duties. And then an emerging group of entrepreneurs, people from sustainable businesses, started to rethink the economy. And then when we heard about the movement, the community of B corporations in the United States, it immediately resonated in our lives. At that moment, we were starting with the B Corporation I founded. Pedro, who is sitting there, he at that moment, and he still is a founder of a B Corporation in Argentina and a board member of another B Corporation in the great American Chaco and in the US. And the other 2 co-founders also were entrepreneurs of local B Corps, Gonzalo and Maria Emilia. So it immediately resonated because we thought that businesses could really make the difference, especially in South America, that I still insist that inequality, poverty, environmental degradation is terrible. It's really terrible. If you go to some places in South America and you see the poverty that is over there, the quality of life that people is living, you probably won't believe it. You probably won't believe it. So we saw an opportunity there, we saw a need, and then we founded Sistema B. And I don't know if I can talk about Sistema B or later on.
Real quickly, go ahead.
So we are Sistema B because even though the B Corps are our heroes, our inspiration, our leaders, our rock stars, we're going for a change in the economy, a change in the markets, not only in businesses. Businesses, B Corps, are the Troy horse. But in order to really live in a more sustainable society, we also need B academics, B policymakers, B lawyers, B big buyers, be communication leaders. So we started to engage different communities of stakeholders from the economy, so they felt that they were really part of this movement. Not only that they were working for B Corps to make them successful, but they were also trying to change the sector where they were working for. And I'll finish giving just one small example. So we were launching a public policy platform in South America with more than 80 organizations. That public policy platform was all about understanding what are the barriers of B Corps and social enterprises. So it was a crowdsourcing platform where we gathered more than 1,000 barriers that B Corps could have and what would be the role of the executive power. And then we started to introduce each other. And then the third or fourth person that introduced himself, he was from a university, and he said, I am Juan from Sistema B. Then another guy stood up from another university, and I said, hey, I'm Pedro from Sistema B. So everybody started to introduce themselves as Sistema B. And they were not B Corps. So that's the value of thinking also as a movement that is where B Corps are the leaders, are the anchors, but they are one of the main stakeholders, but also we have another ones that have to be really active to change the economy.
Thank you, Juan Pablo.
Thank you.
Marcello, please.
Thank you. Juan Pablo, thank you.
Marcello, here we are on the launch of B Lab Europe. What's the vision? What are the plans? What do you hope for?
I think as a European, I like to add a slight small piece to the story, and the story is it's about the world of entrepreneurs. I see that actually we are moving towards the entrepreneurial society, from the social sector, the cultural sector, education, what we used to call business. So in a way, for me, an entrepreneurial society is everyone takes responsibility for their own action and acts in an entrepreneurial way, whether you set up a school, a hospital, a business. So I think that the agenda in Europe kind of moved on a bit from the kind of social environmental. Many companies already do that. But the next real step is how do you integrate innovation, entrepreneurship, collaboration, working across sectors in the kind of new DNA of business. And I see that B Corp is actually the perfect platform to start with. So the goals are very clear. You know, I mentioned it earlier. We would like 1,000 B Corps in Europe in the next 3 years. We would like to have initiatives from cities. We're now in discussion with Geneva, Amsterdam, Paris, setting up a desk for B Corps, where actually the city engages companies and invites them to become B Corps, and then creates platforms for collaboration. Thirdly, I think it's about the financial community and combining, finance, impact finance, ethical finance, and supporting some of these, B Corps or B Corp equivalent. And then finally, I think it's about education and reaching out to business schools, university schools, about the new kind of mantra in a way. And I use Steve Jobs because I think Steve Jobs in a way was an amazing entrepreneur about what I said, making a dent in the universe. So it's how can actually each one of us can concretize our own aspirations through an enterprise or whatever form. And I think B Corp is in an ideal position to actually scale this up in Europe and beyond Europe. So this is a bit how I see it. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcello.
Thank you.
Pablo, at launch here, Pablo, you have shown amazing leadership here in the Netherlands. What, 36, is that right? Certified B corporations at launch?
Correct, yeah.
In just over a year, correct? Mm-hmm. What can you tell the other European countries about what has been the spark to generate so much interest so rapidly before even the formal launch that they can take back to their markets?
Yeah, I think there are more or less three main issues there. First is that we all have to look back at our heritage. If you look at Holland, for instance, Marcello was saying that about 20, 30 years ago we started here in Holland with these kind of movements like the Social Venture Network. We had a lot of people who actually led the flame towards this movement. Like Herman Wijfels, we all know, doing good work with the World Bank and the SER. Like Eckhart Winsen, we were mentioning, like people like Wubbel Okkels. And people like the Van Beumingen family, who is in the room here, who already did a lot of groundwork the last, 20, maybe 30 years. So this means that it's not a start from a year ago. It's a real path, and it accumulated into the last year. So that's one. I think that all countries should look back into their own heritage and build on that path. Secondly, you have to organize. It's not a small task, so you have to actually be dedicated to it, and you have to organize yourself. If you look at Holland, there are a lot of organizations already, before the B Corp chapter actually, who are working on these issues, like MVO-NL, which Wim Lagewij did a lot of work, Groundfield actually, to explore this maatschappelijk verantwoord ondernemen, as we call it. We have, of course, Social Enterprises NL, which did a lot of work on social enterprises. We have the Circular Economy Foundation, who's working on the circular economy. We had Nudge, which is one of our B Corps here as well, who's working a lot on the consumer side and inspiring actually people to share all kind of stories. So if you look at that, I think there's a lot of organized businesses here in Holland who are already conscious of what this is all about, but they didn't feel the connection as we had found it in the B Corp generation. And then come to the third thing, which Marcelo was saying. We, of course, as Dutch, are very entrepreneurial. We like to have our own businesses. We don't like to be betutteld, as we call it in Holland. And we are very international oriented. So if you look at the B Corp chapter, for me and a lot of B Corps, it's like coming home in a system on which business is one of the drivers of doing the work for good. And secondly, that we are in an international business which we not only can use to grow and scale up, but we can learn a lot from that. So I think that if you put that all together, it's about coming home actually. And if you look at what other countries or maybe B Corps can learn from it, don't think about it. Just follow your heart and not be the change, but drive the change. I think we are the changers here. And this is what we can do. And this is what we did for the last year. With a lot of people, not only the B Corps, but a lot of people who are personally involved to drive this change.
Thank you. Finally, James, you're moving towards a September launch. Two-part question. One, I'm intrigued in your response to Pablo about the history of the UK and what you can draw on in the UK to try to drive this particular movement. And then secondly, after launch, how does this end up being a more integrated movement between Europe and UK?
So, you know, in terms of the history, I mean, I think that the problem that you identified in America is a problem that is universal. It's a problem of the way that the economy has evolved over the last, particularly probably 40 or 50 years. And in the UK, you know, with London as the world's largest financial center, we have that problem every bit as much as you do in the States, and I think we all do across the world. So the inspiration for us is that, you know, we see this urgent need for the economy to evolve, and we see that business is the most powerful man-made force in society. So changing the purpose of business has to be at the heart of any solution. So that's the inspiration for us. And in some ways, I suppose, we feel slightly responsible for the role that London has played. And so it would be good to really put that right with the greatest force we can. And in terms of post-launch, how we see, the question was?
How do you integrate with Europe post-launch?
Yeah, so I mean, as I say, this is a universal problem. So it's something that applies to us all. And I think that the solution is all about what's going to be most successful. And the reason I think that the UK is operating as a brother to Europe, and we are famously, I think, Europe's most awkward country. And I think that, but I think that we share so much, and we are part of Europe. And so how we move forward together is something that is just the most wonderful opportunity, because, you know, linking London and, well, I say London, Britain, but London is so overweight within Britain as a financial center. So London and Britain with Europe is going to be absolutely key to really establishing the momentum that we can when we've both really got strong foundational communities of inspiring companies and entrepreneurs who can lead this change.
Perfect. Can you help me in thanking the 4 panelists?